In today's video, we're going to be starting with the first round of your fantasy drafts. This is a big round with big points, so you'll want to make sure you get this one right. Before we get started, I want to be clear about something. Running backs are going to be a major priority this year in the draft. There's a big fall off once you start getting into the fourth, fifth round, so you're going to want to stock up early. So your draft order comes out and you realize you've got either the first or the second pick, you are actually sitting real pretty with what's available this year. To start off round one, we've got two young running backs who are absolute bell cows and focal points of their offense that can also catch out of the backfield. Jahmyr Gibbs, for me, is my number one pick, and Bijan Robinson is my number two pick. To be perfectly honest, you could take either Gibbs or Bijan at the number one. I'm fine with either. But for me, I would take Gibbs at the one. He's coming off a crazy season. They got rid of his backup in David Montgomery. He's now in Houston. They're bringing Isaiah Pacheco, who is a major downgrade from Montgomery. And I think Gibbs is destined for major, major points. Jared Goff is an immobile quarterback, as we know. He loves to check down to Gibbs. They have a lot of designed passes to Gibbs. He's going to be down there all three downs. He's going to be there in red zone situations. He just has such a high ceiling that I don't think you can pass up on him at the number one. But if you do pass up on him, I think Bijan is your only other option there. Bijan's in a similar situation where they're going to funnel everything through him. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He can catch downfield. He's going to be in all situations. He's the red zone guy. He's all three downs. But the kicker is Atlanta is just not as good as Detroit is. So for me, if you can lock down either one of these two running backs, I think you're going to be sitting pretty, especially because as we come around into that 2-3 turn for rounds 2 and 3 of the draft, there's not really going to be running backs that you want at that spot. You're going to be investing a little bit more heavily into the wide receiver position there. So you really want to grab one of these two studs to start your running back room. Now, right after you take those two running backs, we're going to switch gears to wide receivers. I think there are two wide receivers that are just above and beyond everyone else, and those are clearly Jamar Chase and Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua might have some discipline looming, so I'm standing off him a little bit, even though the Rams' offense is crazy. But now that the Bengals' offense is healthy, Jamar just said the other day he's shooting for 23 touchdowns this season. He's always a beast. Even when Burrow's not in, he's still putting up top receiving numbers. But now that Burrow's back healthy, I think it's a no-brainer to take Jamar. I wouldn't even be mad if you took Jamar at the 2, to be perfectly honest. And if you're playing in PPR, I would probably even recommend taking Jamar at the 2. But Jamar and Puka are very clearly your options at 3 and 4. So far, we're going to go Gibbs, we're going to go Bijan, we're going to go Jamar, and then we're going to go Puka. After those first 4 guys, we're going to move into the next tier. I'll give you all 4 guys I've got in this tier, but I want you to keep in mind that their positions are very important to where you take them. Now, in the 5th spot, I'm looking at Christian McCaffrey here. Whenever he's healthy, he's usually the number 1 player in all of fantasy football. So he is right at that age cliff that's typical for running back fall off, but he's an alien when it comes to staying in shape. So if he's healthy, I feel like you have to take him here. Right now, the electrical substation has taken down pretty much everyone in San Francisco, but McCaffrey's healthy, so I think you really have to take him here, especially because you're still going to be missing out on running backs in the second round. Now, after Christian McCaffrey, the next person I have is actually Amon-Ra St. Brown. A lot of people will say you want to take JSN here. I'm perfectly okay if you prefer JSN. For me, Amon-Ra St. Brown has been the number 3 wide receiver in football for the last 3 years. We're in the number 3 receiver spot. That feels like a no-brainer to me. He's been consistent. The Lions really haven't changed all that much offensively. I think He stays on the field all the time, which is great. He's a red zone guy. He gets consistent catches, consistent numbers, and consistency is the name of the game when you're drafting in the first round because you really need high upside and you need guys that are going to get you points every week. After Amon-Ra, I have Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor's numbers when Daniel Jones is starting are astronomical. It's night and day when Danny Dimes is under center, and all reports are pointing to Danny Dimes being healthy and ready to go for week 1. If that's the case, especially with some of the injuries going on in Indy, Alec Pierce's ankle, we're not 100% sure what's going on there. Josh Downs got a little banged up in training camp. Maybe they signed Keenan Allen, an older free agent receiver. They're going to feed the rock to JT, and JT has been a monster for years. His one downside is he doesn't catch as much as some of these other guys that I've got listed ahead of him, but he puts up such insane numbers. Their offense is solid. I think you really want to get him here as well because you're right on the edge of when you're going to be able to get running backs in the second round. And as mentioned before, JSN is the last guy in this tier for me. I think he was a monster last year. He had the most insane target share that I've seen. And I wouldn't be mad if you took him where I have Amon-Ra, even where Christian McCaffrey's ranked. I just don't feel as confident that Sam Darnold is going to be able to replicate what happened last season. I think JSN is perfectly capable, but of the quarterbacks that are passing to these receivers in this first round, Darnold is probably my least exciting quarterback back there. So I'd love to be able to pick JSN here, but I'm not as confident in JSN being able to replicate last season as I am some of these other guys. Now, one important thing to note, as I've mentioned multiple times in this video, the second round, the way it falls, running backs are going to end probably right around if you were the number 6 pick in your draft, assuming you're in a 12-man league. So we'll come back around. The guy who had the 7th pick will probably take the last really elite running back available, and then you'll have to get another receiver. So what I actually have set up in the rankings right now is that I would take Christian McCaffrey, then Jonathan Taylor, because you're not going to be able to get a running back guaranteed if you're in that 6th spot, and you really want a running back in the first 2 rounds. And then I have Amon-Ra and JSN. If you're feeling lucky or you know your league mates, I like taking Amon-Ra in the 6th spot, but if you don't get a running back in round 2, you're probably going to fall behind in that position. So I'd just rather play it safe and get one of the running backs in that 5th or 6th spot to make sure that we have at least one running back through 2 rounds. All right, next up are going to be the picks 9 through 12. This is all the same tier, so I'm comfortable with you taking any of these 4 guys in whatever order you want. But for my personal rankings, the 9th pick should be James Cook. Buffalo's a great offense thanks to Josh Allen and thanks to James Cook. They have 2 receivers that aren't really anything to write home about between an aging DJ Moore and Khalil Shakir, who hasn't really proven that he's a stud in that offense. They do have a bit of a coaching change, even though it's just their offensive coordinator now assuming the head coaching duties. So the offense might look a little bit different. But from what I'm hearing, James Cook is going to be focused a little bit more in the passing game as well, which will, I think, unlock another level compared to what he did last year. He's used a ton in the red zone. He's a 3-down guy. I think he's just a beast that you've got to grab as soon as you can. Now, next for me, I'm comfortable with you taking wide receivers in this spot because you're definitely going to get a running back once the second round comes around. And next for me is going to be CeeDee Lamb. That Dallas offense is insane. It's tough for me to say as an Eagles fan myself, but between CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Javonte Williams, that they have so many weapons there, and CD just gets fed passes. He was banged up last year, but but in previous years, he's put up, you know, wide receiver one overall numbers. So you can certainly be confident drafting him here. I think his touchdown numbers are obviously going to come up from last year. I think Pickens' numbers will probably go down a little bit, but the offense is going to run through CD for the most part. So I'm very comfortable with you taking him right here. Now that we've gotten the Cowboy out of the way, next for me, a little bit of a homer call here, but Saquon Barkley. The Eagles' offense looked pretty crappy last year. I'll be the first one to admit that. I attribute that, as a lot of Philadelphians will, to the offensive coordinator issues. Getting Sean Mannion this offseason, I think, is going to take the Eagles to a completely another level. I think they'll be back in Super Bowl mode this year, and a lot of that is going to be because of Saquon Barkley. I think the offensive line is healthy again. They were so banged up all of last year. If they're healthy, it's one of the best offensive lines in football. Saquon is not quite 30 yet, so he's probably not hitting the cliff yet. I don't think he's lost a step. He's also just a monster athlete, and I think this year, I'm not going to call for him to get 2,000 yards, but I'm certainly confident picking him up in this spot. Saquon's capable of busting huge runs at any time. He's used all three downs. He can catch a little bit out of the backfield. Jalen likes to check down to running backs all the time. So I think Saquon is a safe pick right at the end of this round. Now, the final pick for this round, hear me out, Justin Jefferson. I know he had a crap year last year, but I attribute a lot of that to J.J. McCarthy, who did not look like a competent quarterback at the NFL level. He was replaced at times by Carson Wentz, by Max Brosmer, who both outperformed him, in my opinion. Jefferson was still able to get 1,000 yards despite just total incompetency from the quarterback. As I mentioned before with JSN and Sam Darnold, Darnold's probably my least exciting quarterback in the first round. Kyler Murray is pretty close to that, but he's definitely an upgrade from JJ McCarthy. Interesting fact about Kyler, he pretty much always finishes in the top 12 quarterbacks. I think it's an upgrade. Even if Kyler Murray can get close to league average quarterback play, you're going to see Justin Jefferson return to form. He's going to get tons of touchdowns. The offense is solid. He is a freak on the field. When he has a competent quarterback, he's capable of being the number one receiver in football. So I'm definitely willing to take him with the 12th pick here, especially knowing that I'm going to get a running back as we loop around into the second round. Just wanted to give a huge thanks for watching this video. Just remember, it costs absolutely nothing to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It would help us out immensely if you could do that. We'd also love to see it in the Discord server. A link to that is in the description below. You can also find links to all of our socials in there, as well as a link to our Patreon, where you can subscribe for GOAT status, which gets you direct access to the Fathom Pros in our Discord server, as well as downloadable draft sheets and uploadable CSV files to all the various fantasy platforms so that you're ready for draft day.